I'm Mason, and this is Cara,
Hello.
and we're the hosts of Expert Secrets Revealed Conversations in Health and Fitness, also known as the ESR Show, sponsored by Syntrax Nutrition. It's a show built around exceptional people and ideas that educate, entertain, and inspire. And super excited about today's guest. He is a professional speaker, a former professional soccer player. He's also a radio show host and author of the book, The Athlete Within You, A Mental Approach to Sports and Business. And he's built a career consulting and guiding elite athletes that have participated in Super Bowls and World Cup competition and also other world championships. So we're very, very excited to have with us today Mike Margolies. Mike, welcome.
Hey, Mike.
Thank you. Hey, it's nice to be here.
Absolutely. Mike, tell us, let's start off with mental toughness. What is mental toughness?
Well, I mean, in a lot of ways, mental toughness is the words that we're using nowadays to really let people know that if we have grit, if we have a real understanding that we can accomplish what we're trying to accomplish, stay focused on what we want to stay focused, and do that in a calm sense. That's really what mental toughness is. I mean, it has to do with persistence. It has to do with perseverance, and it certainly has to do with resiliency.
Okay.
So, are there different types of mental toughness? I'm sure when you're working with, am I right about this? When you're working with pros versus, amateur athletes, is there a difference in that, in the mental toughness there that you teach?
Well, I teach it the same way.
Mhm.
Understand that in the bulk of my clients, because the reality is that there are more youth athletes than there are professional athletes.
Mhm.
So I teach the same thing. The youth athletes need a lot of basics, where the professional athlete, the elite athlete, they wouldn't have achieved what they've achieved already if they weren't mentally tough. Now we're tweaking that toughness, we're tweaking that skill so that they're more consistent in their performance at the highest levels.
How would you describe the basics, and then how would you describe the higher end
Elite.
levels of it, the elite?
Uh-huh.
You said that hey,
Uh,
for the amateur athletes, they have the basics.
Mhm.
What are those basics, and how do people go about developing those?
how do you handle stress? How do you talk to yourself? These are the basics. How do you stay focused? How do you use your mind to achieve your goals? So those are all the basics. Now, when we get to elite levels, we might be doing something with some of the techniques that they have either used or heard about before, and now we're just kind of tweaking it and making it very specific to what their needs happen to be. So, in the case of the use of imagery or imagery rehearsal, at the highest ends, I'm actually involving them in the process, planning out the process. And that's not something I do with a 15-year-old.
So, for professional athletes, because I always think about this, I always think about maybe, let's just say, a pitcher, and they're up on the mound. You've got thousands of people booing you, right? The opposing team, and you're sitting there and you have to be so mentally tough out there. How is it? I'm sure that you've dealt with that type of thing before. How do you switch that brain? How do you become so mentally strong that you can go out there and do that kind of thing? I mean, it is an elite status,
Right.
right? But really, because even the elites need help, obviously, and they keep progressing, right?
Right. And keep in mind that everything is that, I mean, use the word correctly, it's progressing.
Yeah.
It's a progressive um, state. They've been throwing, if we're using that pitcher for an example, they've been throwing since they were 10 years old, probably. And there are crazies out in that are watching and screaming at little league kids.
Right.
So
It's
they've
true.
so they've developed a certain amount of that mental toughness to block that out. It's far easier to block out um, that stadium noise than it would be if you've got some crazy parent yelling at a 11-year-old that they suck. I mean, I've seen that. I've seen.
We've all
Um,
seen that.
Yes, we have.
Yeah.
One of the first times I encountered this, I saw this little kid out that was placed out in right field. That he's 11 years old, and he's the typical kid that sometimes gets put in right field in little league, and a ball is hit all the way to the fence, and he puts up his hand, closes his eyes, and the ball lands in his glove.
Mhm.
And he comes running in. He's so proud of himself that he did that. Everybody's ecstatic because they won the game. And out comes this mother and starts beating this kid with her purse because he had cheated him out of his pro career by not allowing the home run. So,
Oh.
kids put up a lot of stuff at that early age. So progressively, they've gotten used to hearing and seeing a lot of craziness. And so all they hear when they're out on that field is, this roar, but it's not personal. It's not specific. They don't hear if you hear boo, all of that kind of stuff, you're just hearing loud noise. I mean, it's much worse for them if they hit the batter or they walk the batter or give up a home run. They come in, they got worsted face in their manager or some of their
Right.
teammates. So that part's not really as hard as people think. But if you don't have the basics, if you don't know how to control your stress, if you don't know how to keep your focus in the quiet of your own home, how are you ever going to keep it out there? And so that's kind of where we start teaching mindfulness at a very early portion so that they become aware of those thoughts, they become aware of those feelings, and they can deal with them then.
What kind of self-talk is most important before competition?
Yeah, I saw that when you sent me the kind of a list of questions you want or areas that we were going to cover. And, you know, I'm in the school of we want to keep our self talk very, very positive. And that holds true, I think, for the majority of athletes. Now, that doesn't mean that we don't listen to or we don't concern ourselves when things aren't going right. If you had like I play golf a little bit, and if I have a bad day out on the golf course, I don't say, well, it'll be better next time I come out. I don't need to practice. That's just arrogance. That's just being stupid. But if you constantly tell yourself that you're not very good, you're going to start to believe that. But it doesn't mean that we don't pay attention to the negative, whether it's negative self-talk or it's just things that are going wrong. We have to look at those things and then address them and then take the positive spin on it.
So do you have any specific guidance or tips on self-talk before, during, or after competition? Because I mean, it'd be easy to generalize and just throw it out and say, well, I have positive self-talk, but those are three very distinct and different stages of competition. And I'm curious if you have any insights or specific tips for
I mean,
before, during, and after.
I really think that it's far more athlete dependent than it is situation dependent in terms of before, during, or after. I mean, when we're coaching, and I coached sports, I coached soccer at the high school and premier level for a long, long time, and in coaching and sports psychology coaching is not a lot different. You have to if you're going to talk to one of your athletes, you're going to give them positive feedback, then you're going to tell them what they did wrong, and then you're going to take a positive spin on it. And I think that's the same way that we talk to ourselves. So if we're getting ready for competition, we're going to keep things very positive. We're going to, okay, I've got to address this. I got to make sure I stay sharp because I'm playing against this really good defensive back. and he got my number last time. And then you're going to take a positive spin on and say, yeah, but I did beat him 3 times on my out patterns. So, in coaching, and I think as we coach ourselves, we take a positive look, we look at what's not going right, and then we take the positive spin on it. During the competition, I really think that we're staying very positive. Sometimes we do have to kick ourselves in the rear end and say, hey, you're going to look bad if you don't get after this one. But by far what we've seen over the last, especially over the last 15, 20 years, is that if we stay on that positive route, the majority of the time, that we see better results. And like I said, there are athletes. I worked with a kid. He was a national champion in wrestling, college wrestling, when I was doing my doctoral work at the University of Virginia. And, he said, don't say anything positive to me. I'll just walk out of class. And I talked to his coach and he said, yeah, he's a weird kid. If you say anything positive, he shuts down. He needs you to tell him he's terrible, because he wants to utilize that anger in order to take down his opponent. So there are cases like that, but somewhere along the line, you've got to keep that positive approach going, because otherwise you're setting yourself up for a different kind of result.
Right. So, that's really interesting that, some people work that way, where you kind of not put them down, right? But you kind of
antagonize, maybe.
Yeah, maybe antagonize, where it pushes them up. And does that go kind of against, like, how do you do, what have you seen that is so different from kind of what you teach, or something that you've had to learn yourself, right? Do you have an example of something like that?
Well, I think I can address it this way. A lot of the people that I've seen, a lot of the clients have problems, just like I did back in college, with getting screamed at, getting yelled at, being told everything you did wrong. And what I do with my clients is I remind them that it's the way that your coach or these other people are communicating with you. They wouldn't communicate with you if they didn't want you to be successful. They would just ignore you. And so, yes, it may be loud. There may be some kind of punishment involved, because that's the way they think. But you have to look at, what are they saying to you that is going to make you better? And then you leave off the approach that they took in order to get you there. I was never very good when I was a player of getting yelled at, because I thought at the time that they didn't like me, or that, I was just useless. And it wasn't until after I started training in sports psychology that I started to understand that not everybody communicates the best in the best way, but look for the message that they're sending you, and then act in a positive way off that message. So even if the tone is negative, look for what they're saying from the positive aspects of what they're telling you.
Are there any rituals or exercises that you recommend for athletes prior to competition?
Well, one of the things that I think is really important to get out there for people to understand is that, and now I'm into my philosophy of sports psychology, I guess. Sports psychology is about the mental skills acquisition that you need to increase your performance, to be the best that you can be. And I say that in a very specific way. I said that they are skills. They're skills just like learning better technique. There, what you were talking about earlier before we started the cast is run faster, have more endurance. That's part of the skill set. Being able to, perform whatever skill that you're performing. Those are skills. Skills require practice in order to get better. Mental skills training is no different than that. Over the past 40 plus years, I've asked, just about every athlete or every person that I've talked to is, so has anybody ever told you to relax? And almost everybody says, as an athlete, they say, absolutely. And then they go, I said, so what do you think about that? And they'll say, well, number one, I didn't know I wasn't relaxed. And number two, how do you want me to do that?
Right.
Right.
And that's where the skill sets come in. So mental coaching, sports psychology is all about teaching them the skills, not just talking about the skills. It drives me crazy when I watch shows on television where they bring in a sports psychologist and it's all basically cognitive behavioral therapy in terms of, we're going to talk about what your problems are. I mean, I'm watching.
That'd be a whole show for me.
Do we get a plug? Do we get a plug if we mention Ted Lasso and Apple Plus TV? No, probably not.
Sure.
But they brought in a sports psychologist into Ted Lasso, and everything is about, okay, let's talk about these kinds of things, these issues that you're having. But nowhere is there in that, are they teaching them to relax? Are they teaching them how to handle their stress? Are they teaching them mindfulness and having them do mindfulness exercises? They might say that. They might say, okay, I want you to go home and relax. Or, I want you to go home and I want you to meditate. But if you don't teach them how to do that, what are they going to do? Go to Google?
Right. I mean, I would think there was so much involved in that, like breathing exercises, right? I mean, how to really focus. You can say, okay, focus all you want, but you have to be trained on how to actually. Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, unless you're doing yoga right now.
Now, don't put down yoga.
I'm not going to put down yoga. I'm not going to, I don't. Never mind. But I'm not putting it down.
Right.
But
I know.
Here's the point.
Yes.
In yoga, they teach you how to breathe.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yes.
But if I were to ask you right now, okay, I want you to take a deep, relaxing breath on camera.
Okay.
How are you going to show me how do you do that?
So I would take it in and out through my tummy, like push my stomach out and then push it out through my mouth. In through the nose. Is that right?
Yes, yeah. And it's diaphragmatic breathing from below your diaphragm. Right. And we now have a bunch of different ways of breathing that are effective. Whether it's a box breath where you're inhaling, holding, exhaling, and holding, and you're doing something like that. I mean, there are a lot of different systems of breath control, but they all stem from breathing below your diaphragm. But when I ask that question to even people who have worked with a psychologist, they'll breathe and they're breathing up here in their upper chest. And they'll like that. And that's putting tension all the way across your chest. And so while it helps a little bit, it's not giving them the effect that they're really looking for. And so they just find after a little bit that, okay, I took my deep breaths. It didn't really do anything for me. So I'm not going to do that. I set up with my clients where we're doing at least a minimum of 3 to 5 minutes in first thing in the morning where they're working on their breath control. And then we move that into a more mindful thing where they're now paying attention to their thoughts and so I wind that all into there. But we start with learning how to relax. And then we go into deep muscle relaxation so that they can become aware, even if they've got a little tiny twinge in their shoulder, a little bit of tightness. Because
Right.
unless you've practiced it, you don't know how to get rid of it.
That's right. And it's really something because so I started doing 10-minute yogas in the morning, just 10 minutes, because 30 was too much drama for me, right? Too much time. And so I thought, you know what? I'm going to do 10 minute. And they do have this 10-minute thing that just, and it's a different one every single day, like 100 days. And I thought, I'm just going to do it. And it's amazing what it does for you in the morning. Not only stretch your whole body up, but mentally as well. And it wakes you up and makes you alert.
Yeah, no, it's a really good practice to have. I mean, if you're just going to do the breath kind of practice that I teach, they're going to do that for 5 minutes. I have them do it 5 minutes in the morning and then 5 minutes after their day is done. Because now it allows you to clear that space between your ears and it allows you to sleep better. And we know, of course, that, of all the components of higher performance, you got to get good sleep. And so the best way to do that I found is clearing the mind before you go to bed. Or maybe you're going to clear your mind and then you're going to sit down and watch some TV or watch a movie or something like that. But you've gotten rid of what's gone on during the day. And now you're prepared for allowing yourself a comfortable rest and revitalization.
Hey, you know that you could actually teach these parents in this little league thing how to behave, and that'd be a whole other business, wouldn't it? Like,
yeah, I've given a lot of talks to parents, and the problem is that with a lot of the parents, especially the ones that are truly helicopter parents,
helicopter moms,
they're out there.
They're the first ones to say, this is a really good talk you just gave. I don't need it, but I know a lot of other parents that need it.
That's true.
Because the worst offenders are the ones that are so unaware of what they're doing.
Yeah.
And so they're the ones that really need to understand. And I have a lot of my clients over the years, because, again, what I do is not psychotherapy. So very often a parent is going to sit there with us. And so I've seen a lot of parents that are, when I lived in Seattle, I had a lot of parents that were Microsoft executives.
Mm-hmm.
And they would be following along. If I'm teaching deep muscle relaxation, they're there sitting in a chair doing it step by step because they know they need it too.
Yes. Hey, well, at least they're aware, right? That's the first thing.
Awareness is the first step. And that's what we get through breath control. It's what we get through deep muscle relaxation. It's why with teaching mindfulness, the most important thing there is to learn to become aware of your thoughts. Mm-hmm. Because if you can't be aware of your thoughts, then, when you're saying bad stuff to yourself and you're believing it, but you're totally unaware of it.
Right.
Correct.
So I have a question for you. Obviously, you've got a lot of life experience, and I'm curious if there was one piece of advice that you could give to people. Just one piece of advice. What's the most important piece of advice you could give?
All right. I kind of coined this. I think I coined it, or maybe I stole it from somebody. I don't remember.
You don't know.
I don't know anymore. But I tell this to every athlete, and for most of them, I have them actually print it up and put it in their bedrooms or somewhere where they're going to see it every day. There's no such thing as failure, only feedback.
I like it.
And that, I think, is, at least in terms of the self-talk aspects of things, that's the most important thing that somebody can do and understand. So you lose a game. Okay, you lost the game. What's the
Mhm.
feedback? What did you get? What did you learn from the experience? If you hit a bad golf shot, why did you hit it that way? Why did you slice it? Okay, I came from outside in. All right, now I let that go, and I'm going to take that positive thought process and at least attempt to do it better. So, but that statement itself, I think, lends itself to people learning how to relax, learning how to deal with their stress and anxiety, and learning how to focus better, because that's really the whole enchilada. And the big part of it is that it really helps your confidence. And confidence is key to everything that we do. Because if you don't believe you can do it, you can't.
That takes the pressure off too. I literally just thought about what you said, and no such thing as failure, only feedback. So if I know that the outcome is positive, it's just the degree to which it's positive. I'm getting positive feedback. That's a win for me. I'm getting positive feedback and a positive outcome. That's even better. But those are both positive outcomes that I would look forward to and not be hesitant to engage in. So I can see how that little shift in mentality applied to kids, to collegiate athletes, or to pros would be helpful. It just like, hey, no such thing as failure, only feedback. I'm going to do my best, and I'm going to learn from this and get better, or I'm going to perform and showcase the skills I've worked very hard to develop. I appreciate that I appreciate that feedback.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it really turns out to be key, because it keeps your confidence up, and you start to understand that, if you fall, if you hit a bad shot, if you lose a game, that's just the event that occurred. It's got nothing to do with you as a human being. And that if you look at it as, okay, what can I do better next time? What can I do better in practice tomorrow? It takes you in that positive direction where you will be more successful.
Wonderful.
Thank you so much, Mike. We appreciate you being on the show today. How can people get in touch with you? What are your social media handles?
Oh, I don't do.
Come on. Yes, you do.
At least tell people where they can get your book. Tell us about your book and how they can get
my book on Amazon. It's called The Athlete Within You. And you can find me on my website at themental-game.com.
Perfect.
And if you want to find me on social media, look for shadowandfire.com, but that's my photography website.
I was going to say, now, is that safe? Is that safe for people to go to?
It's not safer, but you can buy my artwork from there.
Perfect. You're talented in so many ways.
Well, you see the thing over my right shoulder?
Yeah.
That picture right there?
Yeah.
That's the Dallas Mavericks and the Phoenix Suns, and a photograph that I took of them. And from that far away, you can't see it, but it's more of a caricature type of picture. So they can find my artwork there. And but the place they can reach me is through my website, which is themental-game.com.
Excellent.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Mike, thanks so much. And I'll check out that photo too when I get on there. And we'd like to also thank everybody for watching. You can check out this podcast and others at esrshow.com. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel, because we do have handles, social media handles. We'd also like to thank Syntrax Nutrition. They are absolutely okay. Tell us your favorite flavor in Syntrax.
I like the twisted cherry.
Always like the twisted cherry. It's awesome. They have over 21 flavors in their nectar. That's the whey protein isolate. They are incredible. Check them out at syntrax.com.
It's like I like it because it's like a sports drink.
Oh, yeah.
But like no fat, no gluten.
Right. Not like a shake, but like a sports drink. Yes. I know. I love that too. Thanks so much, you guys. Check it out. Syntrax.com. Have a great one. We'll see you next time.